Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tattadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhu Cha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vedyat Ravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deveva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deveva. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Matra Rupena Sanstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Shakti Rupena Sanstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Buddhi Rupena Sanstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Lakshmi Rupena Sanstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. So we are still in the story of the King Janaka and the conclave of Brahmanas that got sunk in the sea, and then Ashtavakra comes along and vanquishes the son of Varuna Putra, and then the ascetic shows up, the female ascetic, and asks him to resolve the apparent contradiction in scripture. How is the self both knowable and unknowable? He doesn't know. So then she basically says, it is the self itself that knows itself. It is Swayambhu, self-existent, self-evident. Swayam Jyoti, self-luminous. The senses cannot go there. The mind cannot go there. The intellect cannot go there. But in a quiet mind, with the attentive faculty introverted, when the mind stops, when the mind returns through memory, it reflects, you are not unconscious in samadhi. So what does the mind grasp? There is no personal sense of self. And one literally sees the whole universe wave out of the self. And Ashtavakra does not have this by direct experience. So the ascetic says, keep doing sadhana and ask Janaka, because of all the people here, he and myself are the only ones who really know. And she goes, poof, disappears. So that's where we left off last week. Mark, do you know what verse number we're on?
Number 1 in chapter 16.
Will you help us out, please, Ganesh?
Which one was it?
We're in the very first verse of chapter 16. We finished chapter 15.
Okay. Shodashodhyayah Shrutavaitad Bhargavo Rama Prapya Vismayamantare Bhuyah Papracha Trisunam Vitrupta Kathashruteh. Having heard thus, Parashurama, attaining to astonishment within his mind, asked Dattatreya again, not satisfied by hearing the story.
So for Catherine, let us catch you up. There are stories within stories within stories here. So the largest framing story, there's this dude Parashurama, and he's gone to this guru, Dattatreya, to get enlightened. So Dattatreya is telling him many stories. That's what's so beautiful about this. So this verse is a reference to that framing story. So Parashurama is, wow, dude, tell me some more. Let's see what happens. Next verse.
Bhagavan Adbhutam Heta Chutam Vrittam Puratanam Bhuyah Papracharajanam Ashtavakro Mahamunihi Yadraja Pratyuvachainam Tachamme Padasarvashah Ahodbhutam Samakhyanam Nakvachitcha Maya Shrutam. Holy One, wonderful is this ancient story heard by me. Tell me completely what the great sage Ashtavakra asked the king again, and also that which the king spoke in reply. Ah, wonderful is the story. It has not been heard by me anywhere.
Yes. So he's on fire with the story and the deep wisdom that it imparts. He wants more from the Guru. So let's see what Dattatreya says.
Vijnana vritta sarvasvam dayaya vadame guru ityevamam anuyuktotha Dattatreyo Mahamunihi Bhargavaya Samachakyo Katham Paramapavanim Shrunu Bhargavayat Proktam Janakena Mahatmana. Venerable Guru, tell me out of compassion everything of this account relating to knowledge. Thus asked Dattatreya, the great sage, then narrated the most purifying story to Bhargava. Bhargava, hear what was explained by the exalted Janaka.
Going on.
Nirgatayam tu tapasyam ashtavakro mune sutah samvritto bahubhir vipraihi sametya nrivapungavam paprachayattu tapasya Sankshipyoktam maharthakam taduchyamanam tu maya samyak shrunu samahitah. When the ascetic had gone away, Ashtavakra, the son of the sage, surrounded by many brahmanas, and approaching the best of kings, asked about the important subject which was told by the ascetic, abridging it. Hear completely with concentration what is being told by me.
So now we have here one of the things that we see in scripture frequently. It'll say, listen carefully or hear completely. This is a code. What it means is this is really important stuff. This is just not narration that we're going to pass over. So pay a lot of attention. Going on.
Rajan videhadhipate tapasyoktam tu yattaya tadaham navidam samyak sankshepo tatpahetutah. King of the Videhas, I did not understand well what was told by that ascetic on account of its having been told briefly.
So here, Ashtavakra says, I didn't get it. Now, we all have this experience. Actually, the Vedanta is incredibly repetitive. And an idea will come around and we'll go, I don't get it. If that's your experience, put the idea on the shelf. What doesn't work is to try to figure it out and gnarl on it, chew on it like a dog with a bone. That's called the oscillation of the mind. It's pointless. Because the reason we don't understand is our minds are too gross. It's that simple. So what we must do is more sadhana, more spiritual practice. And then in another story, in another scripture, the same idea will come around. We'll go, oh, of course, I see. Which is an important point. Now, the other thing is in some scriptures, like for example, we'll make our way through Atmabodha. The highest knowledge is there in Atmabodha, yet it's considered a beginning text. Basically, it's more about introduction to basic ideas and definitions of terms. But for a subtle mind, it's all you need. Then later on, we'll go through the same material in depth and expand it, say, in a text like Viveka Chudamani. So now Janaka is going to take the teaching that the ascetic gave to Ashtavakra and go into depth so that his mind, which isn't subtle enough to get the absolute truth, can apprehend. Going on.
Katham vidhyamavedhyam tat samachakshvadaya nidhe evam janaka aprishtaha prahatam vismayanniva. Storehouse of compassion, how can I know that I'm knowable? Tell me. Thus asked, Janaka said to him, as if smiling.
Going on. How can I know the unknowable? Why? Because we normally think of knowing things as like the acquisition of information or some objective phenomenon. I want to know what's inside the box. I'm going to open the box and it's still objective knowledge. Will I learn about the self by reading the Brahma Sutras? And I'm going to read all the way through the commentary. Will I get it in? I read all 11 major Upanishads. Will I get it then? If I read the Bhagavad Gita 15 times, will I get it then? Shankara says, without knowledge of the self, study of the scriptures is futile. Why? Because you won't be able to understand the deeper import. Then he goes on to say, with knowledge of the self, study of the scriptures is again futile. You have become an Upanishad. You have no need for the scriptures. So what's the purpose of the scripture? The scripture is a bridge where we have this dance, this gestalt, actually. We're in the relationship between the teacher and the student as we break open the scripture. Student gets tuned up and their mind gets quiet. And in that sattvic state, that pure state, when the mind is tuned up, we tell you what you're experiencing while you're experiencing it. And then it becomes direct. This jnana yoga is also called a shabda pramana. The knowledge takes place as you hear the words. But that's very different than being a pundit, being a scholar, or an academic. Any thoughts on this? Catherine, if I use a term or something and you don't understand it, say, Jim, tell me what that means.
Okay, thank you.
So shabda means word, pramana means a means of knowledge.
What does a Upanishad mean?
Upanishad, this is the primary source literature for this work. They are part of the Vedas. They're the concluding portions of the Vedas. The Vedas are like the Bibles for the Hindus. They're the most sacred texts. And in them, they only concern one subject. What's the nature of ultimate reality? They're written in the style of a dialogue, like the dialogues of Plato. So you've got a teacher and a student, or a teacher and several students. And they talk about what is the nature of the human being, what is the nature of this world. Upanishad literally means to sit down near, because in the old-timey days, the teacher would be sitting on the floor, on the ground, and the students would be sitting down near the teacher, near the guru.
So the Upanishads are the literatures? The literature?
Those are the literature, yeah.
Thank
But
you.
they contain the highest knowledge.
Okay.
Good question. All right, any other questions? Going on. Think you're muted.
Muniputra shrunuvacho maya yat prochyate dhuna navedyam sarvatha tadhi vedyam chapina sarvatha. Son of the sage, hear the words which are spoken by me now. That is indeed not unknowable altogether, nor is it knowable also entirely.
So say that one again, because it's very subtle in the way he frames it. And by the way, Muniputra, the son of the sage, that's because Ashtavakara's father was a sage. Read the English one more time, please.
Son of the sage, hear the words which are spoken by me now. that is indeed not unknowable altogether, nor is it knowable also entirely.
Yes. So it is not unknowable altogether. Otherwise, you would say ultimate reality, zero, nothing, can't be known. There is no ultimate reality. Yet you cannot know it like you know objective knowledge. How do we reconcile that? Going on.
Avedyam chet sarvathaiva tadguru kim vaded vada gururavedayet tatta tvamata gururavedayet tattva mata ado gurum shrayet. If it is entirely unknowable, if it is entirely unknowable only, then say what can the guru communicate? The guru can communicate the true principle. Therefore, let one approach a guru at first.
Yes. So the problem here is what has to happen is this intense introversion of the mind. It does us no good when we try to investigate the self, to talk about the self. So Puneet is here. If I say, well, what do you think about the self? As if it's an object up here. Well, I think this about the self. What do you think about the self? Like we're talking about bananas, or we're talking about Marxism or something like that. You can't approach the study in that way. And believe me, I see all sorts of people. They want to learn about the self, so they've got their notebooks out and they're taking notes. It saddens me when I hear that in the Chinmaya mission now people take notes on Vedanta. Swamiji forbade it because you wanted to be totally present with the Guru. Now, in the qualifications of a fit student, we have viveka, discrimination, vairagya, dispassion. Number 3 is the gang of 6, shamadhi guna, qualities of shama, etc. One of those is shraddha. Shraddha means faith, but it's a much richer word than the English word faith. I have faith that the sun's going to come up in the morning. I have faith when I turn the switch, the lamp will go on. I have faith in the scriptures. If I do what they say, will I get what the other people who travel the path will get? Faith. But it actually has a whole nother dimension. Faith in the Guru is the means by which reality is made known. How? We all have this additional element of Shraddha. So my symphony season has started. So hypothetically, I go to hear Beethoven's, let's say, Third Symphony. I have no idea what my series is going to be. I come back and I say, oh, that second movement was so sad. How do I know what Beethoven was trying to communicate? He writes something on a piece of paper, the orchestra plays away, but somehow his intention is something that a sensitive person can enter into. Another example, for people who live in the Bay Area, I will frequently say, Have you ever been out to Ocean Beach on a spring day in San Francisco? And the wind is coming off the ocean, and you can just feel the ozone in the air, and everything is crystal clear, and it's just gorgeous. And there's just nothing like those spring days. And people go, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. How did they enter into my experience? Through my words and their willingness. They went where my mind went. And they were able to find an experience within themselves that echoed what I was experiencing. So the Guru, who herself has steady wisdom, who has retired into the self, can lead our minds to that place if we can tune up and follow them. So where does it start? Whenever we inquire or investigate the self, we must start with our direct experience. Who sees the phone? I do. That's yourself. You're not going to get another self. The problem is that you don't know the self. The problem is you've got all these stupid superimpositions on that self. So we must start with our direct experience. What is that? By which you know everything. It's me. That's yourself. Now, in a mind made very quiet, in the space between your thoughts, see if you can notice, infer, who or what is it that knows the thoughts and the silence between the thoughts. You see, there's nothing there. Yet it's me. It shines as I. It's just pure awareness. Chidakash, the space of consciousness itself. Fundamentally different than that ego sense. I'm Jim, and I have this problem, and I have that goal, and I'm too fat, and I'm getting old, and I did this, and I didn't do that, and I succeeded here, and I didn't do so well there. I me mine, I me mine, I me mine. Stop. Stop the mind. Investigate I, your very sense of I. See if you can find that individuality. And it seems that most of us cannot engage in this process successfully without the guidance of a guru, without a teacher. Apt to get confused with all sorts of other stuff. Any questions or thoughts on this? Going on.
एतद्वेदनमत्यन्तं सुलभं दुर्लभं च हि यः परावृत्तदृष्टिः स्यात् तस्य तत् सुलभं भवेत् यः परादृष्टिरेवास्ते तस्य तच्चाति दुर्लभम्. This knowledge is extremely easy of attainment and is indeed also difficult to be attained. It can be easy for her whose perception or mind may be turned back on itself, searching its source. It can also be extremely difficult of attainment for her who lives with her perception or mind directed outwards only.
So, what is it that makes it difficult? And what is it that makes it easy? If the mind is extroverted into the world because of attachment, my mind is concerned with people, places, things, and conditions. It's very difficult to bring it to that state of tremendous quiescence. So the precondition for this is intense vairagya, intense detachment from the phenomenal world. For the person who has intense dispassion, intense detachment, it is very easy. To be able to discriminate between gross things in the self is pretty easy. I will frequently say to people, can you see the candle? Yeah, I see the candle. You're not a candle. You're the one looking at the candle. We go through all the 5 outer senses. We go to the body. Oh, that's a little more difficult. When you were a child, you had a little body. You went through adolescence, the body changed. Now you're an adult, the body is changed again. But you have been the knower of all these changes. Take a deep breath and feel the breath in the body. Do you not know the body and its sensations the same way you know the candle? We go to the realm of feelings. Joy, sorrow, enthusiasm, anger, frustration, boredom. But whatever the feelings are, you are not your feelings, you are the knower of your feelings. Now we go to the realm of thought. Thoughts go by just like your hand in front of your face. Or I like to say, like the traffic going up and down Grand Avenue. But I witness the thoughts. Now, the subtlest of all discriminations is to be able to discriminate between the pure subject, I, aham, and the thought of self, egoism, ankriti. And that seems almost impossible to do till we have been able to bring the mind, or at least thin the mind, into quiescence. Going on.
Anirupyam kevalam tad vedyamapi sarvatha kathanchit anyarupena nirupyam vedyamapyuta. That is entirely indeterminable and also completely unknowable. Somehow, in a different manner, it is also determinable and knowable.
Yes. So it is entirely unknowable as an object. Just like your eyes are that by which all objects are seen, no one has ever seen their eyes. I've never seen my eyes, therefore they don't exist. My eyes are that by which I see all the stuff. Likewise, the self cannot be known as an object. You're not going to be sitting in meditation waiting for an experience of the self. I tell you, you are already selfing, I-ing. It's never absent. But because it's the subject, and I'm so used to looking for some kind of objective phenomena, I get confused. Yet it is not unknown. Are you not you? How do you know you are you? Everything in this world is known by what we call the triple T, the triple factor. There's a knower, there's a means of knowledge, knowing, and an object of knowledge, the known. I, through seeing, cognize the candle. I, through hearing, cognize the traffic, all outer senses. I, through manas, mind, know feelings. I, through buddhi, intellect, know thoughts. How do you know you are you? It's in a different dimension. Next verse.
Yadhyadrishyam pashyasahi tena tadvedyamukhyate yatteva bhasate kinchit tadvibhavaya saddhiya bhana shakti bhasyahina sarvabhana samashraya. Whatever visible object you see here, it is declared as knowable by that reality. Whatever appears to you, perceive it with a pure and steady intellect. The power of perception or knowledge, bereft of the perceivable or knowable, is the resort or substratum of all perception or knowledge. No.
Yes. So the self, if I do the awareness of stuff and withdraw my attention from the stuff, I'm left with pure awareness. Swamiji always used to do his spiritual algebra. I'll have to do it I'll paint it backwards for me so you can see. So mind equals A, awareness, plus, we'll call it P, perception. No, I won't use P. We'll use OET, objects, emotions, and thoughts. Mind is the awareness plus OET, objects, emotions, and thoughts. So if I take the OET and I move it to the other side of the equation, got to make it minus. So mind minus OET, objects, emotions, and thoughts, equals pure awareness. Who sees the phone? I do. Disregard the phone. What is the eternal factor by which everything is? Next verse.
Saiva tattvamithyeva vijanihi mune sutta vedyameva na vittihi vedyameva na vitti syat swato yanna prakashate. Son of the sage, that knowledge of perception alone is the true principle. Know this surely. The knowable alone cannot be knowledge, since it does not shine by itself.
So if you have an insight, even it's, oh, I really believe God is everywhere. That's something I know. That's not it. Oh, I went into meditation and I had all this ecstasy and lights, and my kundalini was going up and down. That's not it. Before you went into meditation, who knew your ordinary state? I did. When you had that experience, who knew it? I did. And when it ended, as they all do, who knows the ordinary mind to whom you returned? I do. If it occurs in time and space, if it occurs in the gross or the subtle world, if it has name and form, if it's confined to the past, present, or future, or any period of time, most importantly, if it is cognized as an object of awareness, drop it. That's not it. But what is that by which all objects are known, gross and subtle, by which you know everything in the past, present, and future, by which you know all mind states, gross and subtle and whatever happens? What is that that knows, that illumines every experience? That is pure awareness, and that is your very experience of I. Next one.
Vittiranya yaya vedyam vedyate nasvatah pachet vedyam vibhinna rupam vai vidyaiva vedyate khalu. Knowledge by which the knowable is known and not by itself anywhere is different from the knowable. The knowable having different forms is surely known by knowledge alone.
So all the knowables have different forms. They come and go, they rise and fall. But something there is which always illumines them. Sat, it exists. Chit, it is sentient, it is conscious. Ananda, no sorrow reaches there. It is, at the end, we discover the fountainhead of bliss itself. Extremely pure, extremely peaceful. Nothing touches. I know it because it's me, but I do not know it as an object. One of my favorite verses from Gita, it's in the 2nd chapter. Krishna says, he who knows it not. Meaning like Ashtavakra before. You can go blah, 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 blah. You can post on Facebook. That's not it. She who knows it not knows it. Meaning when you can unknow the mind. That's one who knows. Now, experientially, when I first met Swamiji, oh, it was all this Shakti, and, and then the teaching, oh my God, it was so wise, he was so brilliant. And then later on, I got beneath that. I learned how to tune to his mind. And there was just this thunderous silence, this emptiness that was purna, so full. And I'd go hang with him, and there would going on at this very surface level. He would show us the awakened state of mind. We would enter into that emptiness, that silence. Shunya Prasad, gift of the emptiness. Next verse.
Tattad tattadrupa vibhedena vittirno bhityate kvachit bhedo hi vedya dharmaha syanna vittin samsprashet kvachit. Knowledge is not divided by the difference in the forms of the knowable objects anywhere. Difference can only be a characteristic property of the knowable. It cannot touch knowledge anywhere.
So the knower is a constant. But we have to prove this to ourselves over and over and over again. Have this radical reversal of the attentive faculty and see whether or not the self ever in fact changes. Some big upset happens. To whom did this happen? To me. Who am I? Check it out. Oh, no one ever touched me. I'm still that empty Chidakash space of consciousness. Something really groovy happens. You stop, you check it out. Over and over again until you prove to yourself that the self, you, are an eternal, changeless factor. Next verse.
Yata akara bhedo hi vedya pakshe vibhasate pashya vedyam prithakritya buddhya buddhyakara vivarjitam. Since difference in forms appears only in the case of the knowable objects, perceive or realize with your pure intellect free from thought constructs, the formless knowledge having separated the knowledge.
So we practice this drishya viveka, this discrimination between the seer and the seen. And by here we mean perceiver and all perceivables. The noumenon, which illumines the phenomenon, the phenomena. The forms are diverse and changing, but I never change. Prove this to yourself. What we want to do is we hear the words of the Guru, and they are like hypotheses in a science experiment. Now, prove or disprove them in the laboratory of your own direct experience. Maybe you will go within and you'll see, myself is pink. Yourself may be empty, but mine's pink. See if that's true. And we can get confused because scriptures oftentimes will give us what we call upasana, various rituals or meditations when our minds are too gross. One of the most famous is in the Kathopanishad. The self is like a flame the size of your thumb, located in the heart. You would be amazed how many people are trying to see inside their heart, looking for a little person the size of a flame inside the heart, or maybe a flame itself. Oh, that's the self. I'm seeing the self. I can remember when Baba Muktananda was here, everybody was in meditation wanting to see the blue pearl. See a meditation till you see a blue pearl. Oh, yes, I'm getting it. I see the blue pearl. Who sees the blue pearl? I do. If you see a little flame the size of the thumb in your heart, who sees it? I do. Get rid of the blue pearl, forget the flame. Who sees everything? That is yourself. Then why do the scriptures give all these various yogic practices and talk about the various siddhis, powers that you can accomplish and all this kind of stuff? Why do they have that? Basically, because our minds are vulgar and gross. And we need to, first of all, develop some vairagya, some dispassion. We need to develop some single pointedness of mind so we can engage in this intense atma vichara, inquiry into the nature of the self. Oh, who am I? Next verse.
Bimbana kridiraadarsho yadvad tadvitiyam chitihi drishyakara dhritena rupatam pratipadyate. As a mirror has the resemblance of the reflected image, so does this consciousness attain manifoldness of form on account of bearing the form of visible objects.
So we have these two terms, a bimba and a pratibimba. A bimba is a mirror. And the pratibimba are the images or the reflections in the mirror. So when I go into the bathroom and I look into the mirror, I see my face. But is there a face really in the mirror? No. It is the mirror itself, because of its properties, that appears as the reflection. So also, all the names and forms in the phenomenal world appear in the self, but the self does not undergo a change. Just like when he's here, he's a good-looking guy. He goes in and looks in the mirror shows a good-looking guy. I go in, fat old saggy-eyed guru. Mirror doesn't change. So this world, glorious things manifest, but consciousness is not touched by them. Terrible tragedies happen. Listen carefully. Consciousness is not touched by them. Now, how do we know this? Keep thinning the mind. And the world will start to thin out because the mind is the world and the world is the mind. And as you attain this tanu manasa, thinness of mind, the world becomes like a transparency, like a hologram, like a light show. Divine CGI. Next verse.
Evam vittiriyam vedya edavya vrittarupatah natu swabhavato vedya savittir vishvasanshraya. Thus, this knowledge is knowable through its natural state, withdrawn from the knowable objects. But that knowledge, which is the substratum of the universe, is not naturally knowable. That is, one cannot know this is knowledge, it is of such kind. Note, when all knowables are negated, what remains is pure knowledge.
So the paradox, how is it both knowable and unknowable? This is the great cosmic secret. Everyone already knows the self. Listen carefully. The self is difficult to recognize, to realize, not because it is far away, but because of its profound ordinariness. We have to remove from our perception everything that is removable. What remains is I. Now, when the mind gets busy, the self does not disappear. Listen very carefully. It is the simple awareness of the most ordinary waking state. Once you get it, it's myself. It's always there. You can't lose yourself. Now, if everybody already has it, what's this self-realization business? Aha! Well, this is the recognition. This is the aha that occurs in the subtle intellect. Because that's where the problem is. Self doesn't have a problem. It's the mind that has the problem. What's my problem? Because of spiritual ignorance, I think I'm my body. And then I think that I'm without joy. So I get attached to the world and I am tortured by longing, spriha, wanting, vancha, craving, kama. The more I want, the more it hurts. Because I do not know in my intellect, aham brahmasmi. I haven't investigated what is actually there, what's real. Once I begin to get rooted in that, everything starts to change. I give up all this Wonderful word in Yiddish. Mishigas means craziness. A mishigas in this world. Come home. Let the mind abide in the sound. All right, next one.
Yata etad veditu syat rupam tasman na vedyate vimrashashtavakra rupam nijamevam vidham sphutam. Since this knowledge should be of the nature of that which makes objects known, consequently it is not known, that is, it cannot be the object of knowledge. Ashtavakra. Investigate clearly your own natural state of such a kind.
Yes. So it is not knowable like an object. What is that, though, by which everything is known, without which nothing can be known? Yet it is not unknown, because it is myself, which I constantly know as I. Next verse.
Natvam shariram prano va mano vapyasthitarvatah shariram dhatu nikaram tatte rupam katham bhavet. You are not the body or the vital energy, nor even the mind on account of their instability. The body is a collection of primary ingredients. How can it be your real nature?
All right, so we're actually heading into a whole new section where he does what's essentially the negation of the five koshas. So we'll take up this verse. What number is it, Ganesh?
23.
So we'll take up verse 23 next week. Any questions before we quit? How'd you do with this? Catherine, is that her name? Our new gal.
Yes, that's my name.
I had a senior moment here. How did you do with this? Did it make sense to you?
It was a little bit, it made some sense, but it was a little bit confusing. It was a lot of like, oh, you can know it, but you can't know it. And yeah, stuff like that. But that's okay. So,
All right.
like you said, I'm not going to get everything right away. So it's okay. I'm sure I'll get it eventually.
You're doing fine. We've all been there.
I had a question about the
Please.
meditation. So in the beginning, in the meditation, are we supposed to be meditating on like something specifically, or because you didn't mention anything like
No,
we're supposed to
it's
focus
very-
on something?
Let me give you my phone number and you and I can talk offline. Fair enough?
Sure.
You got a pen handy?
Yeah.
510-220-8453.
Okay.
Call me
And
anytime.
then,
sweetheart.
thank you. And then your email was JHGILMAN.
Yep,
Okay.
at sbcglobal.net. That's my personal one. I have a Silent Way one as well, but I can never remember it.
Okay, that's fine. And
All
then
right,
I was
any
wondering
other
what in
questions?
the chat in the beginning, when you close out the meditation, you say namastasia. Like, what does that mean? Because it sounds like namaste. Like,
Namastasyai. Namastasyai means like namaste, but I do it to a feminine. See,
Oh,
there's
okay.
in Sanskrit, there's masculine, feminine, and neuter, gender. So you put a different ending on the word if it's you're saying it to a woman.
Thank you.
All right. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you all. Beautiful chanting, Ganesh. You wax very poetic and musical when it's inspiring verses.
Thank you, Jim.